Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill.
September.
Oh man, I know. Not happy about it. Well, I'm happy because it's fall. Just not
Yeah.
happy that
Yeah.
it's a new month and closer to the end of the year and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Why is that, John?
Um, I don't. I don't know. I don't really have a good reason. I just kind of dread just like the acknowledgement of passing of time, if that makes sense.
I think so. Is that like birthdays too, where you hate birthdays? Because it's like,
um,
ugh, another year older.
Actually, I like my birthday. It's a national tragedy that it,
A national holiday?
no, it's a national tragedy of a day.
Oh,
Um,
yes, it is. That's true.
yeah, and so yeah, is I don't know. It's just it almost feels like this is weird, but maybe this is just something I feel like I'm supposed to complain about. Like maybe it's like old guys and like the weather, and they're like, "Man, sure is raining hard," and the other one says, "Yeah, but we need it,
We need
don't
it.
we? Yeah, sure did need it."
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like, yeah, getting late in the year.
Yeah.
Well, goals and everything else like that. So yeah,
Yeah. That old farmer mentality. Oh, only 40 good days left to crop on left.
cropping.
You know?
Oh man, if that's what the kid farmers say, that would be hilarious.
Hashtag cropping.
Hashtag cropping
That would be fun
on
with it.
on Only Farmers, the dating website. I'm sure
Oh, yes.
there's kids on there
Tell
saying,
me about your cropping equipment.
yeah, exactly, yeah. How's your cropping going? I don't know, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't have a show yesterday. I guess we should talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Um,
That
yeah,
duty.
so yeah, Jake takes his kids to school every other Wednesday, and so he messaged me on Tuesday night, and he was like, "Hey, should we just not run on Wednesdays?" And this was late evening, John, who said, "Well, I'm probably still going to get up and get on the show and stuff like this." And then I was just like, "No," because it's like not nearly as fun
Yeah.
just solo, because it's
No.
you're waiting for questions to come in, and if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen, and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
decided to not do that, and so I got to take my kid to school yesterday, which she was very excited about. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was very, very nice and worth it. So
Yes. It's a treat when we
yeah,
can do it. So,
absolutely.
especially, and old man Jake is thinking, I don't get many more of these because, my son will be 17 November. My daughter will be
Oof.
14. And so, like, I'm literally counting the days for my son. And then, so the daughter's not far behind.
Oh my gosh, man, that's
It's
crazy.
it's getting there. It is definitely hit the bottom of the barrel. You can hear like the dong, bottom of the well. Like I can hear it down there. So I'm taking every spot I can get now.
One of my favorite Stoic ideas is this line that Seneca talks about, and I'm going to butcher this, but essentially he's saying that once you start to realize that you're close to the end,
Mm,
like that's like a special place of awareness that happens whenever that happens, of like, oh my gosh, right?
yeah.
And this amazing appreciation for it happens, but like you can't go back to that place of like not knowing how close you are to the
Mm-mm.
bottom of the barrel, the end of the supply kind of situation. It's very
It's not
interesting.
it's not a big window. Yeah, you don't get it for
No.
very long. It's like fall in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
Yes. Yes.
window, and you sprint when it's there to do all the fall things.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Let's go
yeah,
get a pumpkin. Let's go to a football game. Let's go have some hot coffee, even though it's like 97 degrees outside.
yeah.
Yes, that
State
is very
fair,
much.
like let's
Oh
get
yeah.
it all in.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
okay. In your opinion, my family was having this conversation the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is better, Six Flags, State Fair?
Okay, well, see, but there's two things here, right? Because I'm not a rides guy. Like, have I done all the rides at both places? Mostly, yeah, but I
Okay.
don't enjoy them really. So I'm not really like there for the rides. I'm there for the food, which means
Oh,
State Fair crushes Six Flags.
okay. Interesting. Interesting.
But if you're a rides person, to me, it's pretty obvious. Six Flags is the way to go.
Yeah, because like at the state fair, all those rides are individually priced. You have to go buy the tickets for them and
Well,
stuff
and they're
like
not.
that. You know,
I mean, they're like there's some actual rides there too, but like it's a lot more kind of kiddie rides, I think.
Oh, exactly
At the
right.
state
Yeah,
fair.
you know, you're not going to get a really high end roller coaster ride
No, you're not
experience
getting
or
Superman.
stuff
You're
like
not
that.
getting,
Yeah, but you're going to pay $2 to $3 for like each one of those rides you go on.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I mean, at the state fair, get
versus
ready
Six Flags,
to
yeah,
drop a mint at the state fair for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely right. And then
It's just part
at
of.
Six Flags, you just you pay the price of admission, then everything else is free. So where do you want your value? I guess.
Did you know? I think I might have told you this on the old show, but this is still fascinates the heck out of me. That the state fair is a nonprofit organization.
What?
It's the biggest nonprofit event in the United States, or it was at some point. And so
Very
they raised like
interesting.
$100 million or something over a course of a 3-year period or something. It's insane, but it's
Whoa.
genius. It's genius, and that's why for some reason, some reason now when I'm paying $9.50 for a little churro, and ticket, I'm a little less offended.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a nonprofit somewhere that's getting some of this.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, so pretty interesting.
They're nonprofit. That is fascinating.
Mhm.
Here's the other thing that they do remarkably well, and this is this is something that gets talked about a lot in poker. There's a saying that the person who invented poker was very, very smart. The person who invented poker chips is a genius,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because what happens is we have this disassociation, right? So you'll see people at the cage and they're very, very thoughtful about their money and stuff like this. And then, good morning, Michelle. And then by the time they have chips and they're back at the table, they just change into this like non-caring person sometimes about how this money shows up, right? And so the state
dude,
fair with the tickets is the same thing.
dude,
And
genius.
yeah, it is a way of removing the emotionality of money. But here's the other thing, right? It keeps all those stalls very safe because none of them are handling cash and everything. So I
Hmm.
wonder I wonder if it was intentional. I wonder if it was done for theft. I wonder if it was done for like safety. And then like I wonder kind of what the average spend per family
Ooh,
increases to once they move to a situation like that.
that would be really interesting because I have looked at the stats of what the average family spends when they go to the
Oh,
Texas State Fair,
interesting. Okay.
and it's something like $179 for the family of 2 or 3. It's a lot.
It's a
And a
lot.
family of 4, I think it's up over 300.
Oh my God, man.
Like it's
Interesting.
because people, you go once,
Yes.
you go
Yeah.
once a
It's an
year,
event.
and
Mhm.
it's going to cost a bunch. So you just bring a grip, and then
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that would be insanely cool to see when that switched and watch the next 5 years and just
Yes.
take
Yeah.
off. I got to
Well,
imagine somebody from Vegas got down there and said, guys, you're doing it wrong. Yeah, my grandpappy did this on the road for 42
There,
years.
that like I was doing some cold outreach a couple of weeks ago, and I actually did some outreach to a group that does like casino marketing, right? So they will go in and meet with a casino, and they will help them figure out like here's what you can guarantee in the form of like a big poker event or like a big event like this, and not lose
Yeah, like a fight
your
or like something.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly right. Because there's all these like poker tournaments now, and they have these kind of daily guarantees. Well, the poker players show up for the guarantees,
yeah.
and the casino can't outlay too much more over. James Buckley is here.
What
Holy
sales,
crap! What is up, James?
man?
Um,
What's up, man?
wow. So so the casino can't, if the guarantee doesn't make, the casino's on the hook for the rest of the prize pool and stuff like that. So it's all this like kind of calculated risk thing.
Right,
So
right.
by slapping a guarantee on it, more people come in, which then
Sure.
validates the guarantee in the first place. And so I reached out and I was like, I've hung out a lot in casinos over the years, but I've never thought about like a marketing company that works with these groups, but of course it does.
Yeah,
So that was all very, very interesting. Of course, there's marketing behind it. Like there just has to be.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that would be a great guest for the show too. If you still have contact with that person, that would be, I think, really interesting conversation to have, wouldn't it, about psychology?
yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. What's popping, James? Yeah, what's popping with you, man? We're just here showing up, like making fools of ourselves every morning
James
for y'all.
James is a solid sales coach. He's got some really great content on LinkedIn. He also does content on TikTok. But yeah,
Yeah, I read a really awesome LinkedIn post yesterday about it. A guy basically saying, "Hey, stop with your hate on TikTok. Here's what happened for the last 2 weeks for me on TikTok," and he just listed, "Here's how many pieces of content I put up. Here's how
Mhm.
many likes I got." And then he has, a CRM installed, and he has a website, and so he literally watched someone watch 3 of his TikTok videos, then go over to his LinkedIn profile and view his LinkedIn profile, watch 2 of his videos on LinkedIn, and then go to his website and watch a video on his website, and then fill out a form. And the next day, within an hour, had booked a call or booked a business. So
Yeah.
within 24 hours, this guy watched all that video, and he found him on TikTok 24 hours earlier. So it's like, whew, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I have not made that bridge yet, so we're getting some good views. Like, I'm getting a lot of compliments over there, right? Like, I've had 3 or 4 people be like, "How do you only have
Right.
this many followers?" Which is great and validating and stuff, but, I don't have all the off-ramps paved, right? So we've just been kinda, like, dorking around over
Yes.
there and just kinda doing it on a regular basis.
Yep.
Um,
Yes, that's true,
but
Mike. That's some good attribution.
yeah,
He had
attribution
good tools.
matters. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing a fair amount of video over there, and it's just fascinating to me because like we're repurposing the same content, putting it up on as a reel and also as a YouTube short. And man, not getting anything on the YouTube shorts. Like the channel's brand new, of course, right? So that kind of
Right.
makes sense. It's a more mature platform than TikTok is, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it'll smash on TikTok and like have 300
well,
views on Instagram
yeah,
or vice
that's why
versa.
you double down on TikTok. You just got because if you get the traffic there, you just got to figure out what the traffic that'll actually get the hooks in now. Because if you got the traffic, double down and find out what gets the hooks. Because
Yeah.
for me, I'd rather battle for a platform where I'm getting traffic without as much effort and figure out how to get more people flowing through than to like we have at YouTube. There's so much money there. Obviously, you'd like to, but yes, it's so true.
James
So
is
true.
very that's the joke of the day.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Tip your waitress.
that's hilarious. Yeah, because like you don't know what is actually going to work. What is actually going to create the right kind of wonder and the right kind of like, oh, I want to hear more about this with the right kind of intention and quality and stuff. So yeah, like I saw a tweet last night and said there are no great marketers. They're just good testers. And I was
Yeah,
like,
that's a good one.
yeah,
That's a
that's a
good
good
one.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to find some people on TikTok that are crushing and go watch their content and see what mine doesn't do that theirs does do. You know what I mean? Like, because obviously there's people over there crushing it. It's
Yeah,
just
I
they
mean,
figured out what message resonates in a way
yeah,
to get them to check out some other stuff.
Will stuff does very,
Yeah,
very
humor
well.
does that. I think though. I think if you can make someone laugh, they'll go look at your profile. They just will. They're like, "Haha, this guy's cool." What else?
Interesting. So,
That's a theory I have. I actually tested it yesterday in my advanced coaching with Marcus.
mhm,
We had a situation, which I won't go into, but essentially they missed 2 meetings.
mhm.
Their coach said, "This is it. Like this is important. If you can't show up, we might not be the right fit for you guys." And we're already
Oh yeah.
engaged with them already.
Mhm.
This isn't like a sales call. And um, so he's transitioning them over to a new coach, and they're like, "You got to show up for these things." They no show the new coach. And so it's time to like they've
A
already
wake
had
up
a
call.
frank message
Yeah.
from their coach. So it's like, what do you do now? I was like, be funny. Like, obviously they've, a few times now not responded. And then they had like the parent talk,
Mhm.
like, I was like, I might try being funny then. I might try something like, hey, I showed up yesterday at the call and it was pretty good, but there wasn't anybody else there. So I'm hoping next time when y'all are there, it'll be a better call, like just like something silly or funny, just as like a pattern interrupt, to
Okay.
get them engaged. But
I have a question.
Marcus
I have a
said
couple
no,
of
by the
questions.
way. But
Okay, good. Because I think I agree with Marcus on this thing, right?
yeah, no, I get it. He said, you know what, you could try it. It might work for some, but that's not a guarantee that it's going to work. You want something that
Yeah.
is going to get their attention.
Yeah. And honestly, if they're paying if they're a paying client and they're not showing up for the coaching, like
Yep.
you need to go suss that out. You need to go figure out why they're not showing up. Why are they not making it a priority? Why is this not on the calendar? And like if it's not a big priority,
Sure.
hey,
But this is why it was hard though, right? I think this is
Mhm.
a great conversation. They said they were a good client up until then. They had already had the talk. I'm like, we are so sorry. It has been a big deal, and we will be better. We promise.
Mhm.
So like all the good signs were there,
Yeah.
and then they ghosted. Not just didn't show; they didn't even tell them he wasn't that they weren't going to show
Yeah.
up. So
I
it's like
mean,
kind of a big question mark. Like,
I took a role actually at a remote ed tech company. It was like my only non-sales role in like a very long time, right? This is kind of between doing the website design thing and launching my own business. And I was I was trying to go sell for this company, and they're like, yeah, you're a little long-winded. We don't really like you for selling, but we do like you for this accountability coach role." And I was like, "Accountability, that's my jam. Let's go." And so then I'm managing like 143 adults who are trying to learn how to do development.
mhm.
And so I'm doing all my sales craft. I'm doing all my non-loading my questions, asking really questions, going for the negative, all this other stuff, and my boss was like, why are you doing these things? And I was like, well, because I'm trying to figure out, are they really motivated? Are they going to do the work or not? And this guy hated that I was using things that I would use in a sales conversation
Yeah, it's different.
with this kind of thing.
It's different.
And so I fundamentally don't believe with that guy. Don't believe that guy, and he's no longer in that role or, to my knowledge, like managing people because, you know, a conversation is there to like figure out, in my opinion, why you're there, what you're motivated by, are you going to make it a priority or not? And
Right.
if they're not doing those things and they've already paid you, they're showing you exactly the kind of organization that you're working with or not. And when you allow it to go as a coach, you're making that okay. So I would
Sure.
probably I wouldn't use humor. I would show up and be very confused. Guys, it's been a couple of weeks. We had these conversations. It kind of just feels like this isn't a priority. That's okay. Did we do something wrong? I would fall on the sword and figure out like what that was because it kind of seems like you had the accountability chat and now they're ghosting. So like, hey, did we come on too strong? And have that conversation. I wouldn't try to use humor in that moment.
Right. Well, okay. So I would disagree with the falling on the sword because we're sure it's their problem. They've admitted to it. They've
Sure.
apologized. They've
Mhm.
So I don't think there's a need to fall on the sword there. That's actually almost feels like you're dismissing their bad behavior at this point. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
in
I
some
think it's
cases, I definitely because I actually recommended that yesterday to someone else to fall on the sword. But in this
mhm.
case, I think the big stick for me, what I was trying to figure out was if they say they're in and they've been good up to a very recent point, was it the switching coach that they were uncomfortable about and they just weren't willing to say it, and so they
Yeah.
were having like an issue. But here's the thing, right? I agree with everything you said. When you get them on the call, the point is to figure out what's going on, right?
Mhm.
How do you get them on the call? That's what we were trying to figure out. What's the message? What's the email? What's the one on the video to say, hey, we've had this happen. How do
Oh,
we get on the call and figure this out together?
that's when I would do a version
That's
of the
why I was
breakup.
humor. What?
That's when I would do a version of a breakup email, guys. Like,
Yes.
and okay, so let me go back one
Like
thing,
a
right?
current client breakup email is
Yeah,
what it would be. Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, the technique is like, hey, you're not doing the things that we said that we're going to do. We're going to close
Yes.
this window. Like, do you want to continue or not? Kind of deal. And you can
Right.
use this in your prospecting. You can use this kind of late stage and stuff. Like if a deal gets stuck and they're like, okay, hey, you might be at the beach or you might have decided this wasn't important. Can you let me know which one? A little
Right.
bit of humor, a little bit of kind of creating the space to make it okay. And so, to that idea of you don't want to go fall on the sword. I call it falling on the sword because like that's the technique. But you guys changed something, and now they're not showing up to these calls, right? So when you can, is that your dog?
No, that was a car.
That was a car. Oh wow.
And
Okay.
unfortunately, that's an Infinity making that sound. That's horrible.
So when you can like that whole thing. Hey, did 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 we mess something up? Did we drop the ball somewhere? Did we not tell you about something? Is just an attempt to make the conversation more approachable, right? Because when I don't have the best way of explaining this, but when you can pick up your part of the rope, hey, we might have done a bad job, we might have
Sure.
switched coaches on you or anything else like that. It makes their end of the rope easier to pick up. Well, actually, guys, we've just been super busy. Okay,
Well,
cool.
it's partially reciprocity because you're willing to
Yeah.
put something out and then they were going to give something back.
Yep. Hmm.
And it's also just classic relational, just owning your part. And
Yes.
when you're willing to be not vulnerable, but like, hey, if we did something, we need to know about this. We
Yeah.
understand, it's cool. But let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's sort it out. Yeah. It's a sticky one because there's not like here is the formula for solving this conversation necessarily, right? There's a principle or two or three you can work with to see what works.
Mhm.
But that's why this is such an interesting role
I
to be
mean,
in.
the hard
you know?
part is like what I would honestly say is there probably needs to be like a group kind of handoff call of transitioning from one coach to the other coach.
There
So that
was.
way there was. Oh
There
wow,
was. That's what I'm
interesting.
saying. This was a big question. It was like we think everything happened right and they were fine. Like everything was there. So that's where it's like something's happened.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what's going on here. And they
Yeah.
are not responding.
Yeah.
So it's more like if you didn't show up,
Man, I would
right.
be
I'd be
I
like,
would
hey,
be
are you good, man? Is everything okay?
I would be confused, concerned, and
Yeah.
saying like, hey, we should probably wrap this up. Right?
No,
Because
no,
that's
but like if you and I, like you missed a show tomorrow and didn't
Mhm.
tell me, my
Mhm.
first response would not be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do the show anymore.
For sure. No,
It would
right?
be,
You would reach
"Dude,
out
are
and
you
be like, "Hey,
cool?"
are you okay?"
Yeah.
Right? And then if I didn't respond, "Hey, man, where are you?" And stuff like that. I'm assuming you've already done those reach outs and been like, "Hey,
Right.
you missed the call today. Hey, we're getting a little bit concerned. Are you guys okay?" But you can't like salespeople who just keep sending those kinds of emails are just professional pests, and it's not their fault. No one has taught them any better, and lots of sales trainers and leaders are like, just keep following up and stuff like this.
Yep.
If they never respond, like at some point we have to acknowledge the writing on the wall. If you send someone 1,500 emails and they never respond to any of them, 1,501 might not be the best use of your time.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
So at some point you have to do what's right for the company, right? And if what's right for the company is working with people who are invested and they're going to show up for the coaching calls and everything else like this, you can't, in my opinion, continue to make it okay for these other people to not do that. So like there should be some process here, right? An SLA of, hey, if they miss this many things, you send so many emails, and then you do kind of like a, hey, we're going to be ending the engagement, or we're going to cancel your billing because it doesn't seem like this is really, we're not treating this at the same level, and it's just going to be frustrating to one of us, if not both of us. So we're just going to kind of do.
Well, so Marcus's version was, he said, I'm going to do a reverent breakup style. He didn't use breakup style, but essentially message, video, one-to-one, because we already have that established in our relationship. We send video to each other all the time, like with a really kind of like slow paced,
tone.
Space.
Tone's got to be there.
I'm really concerned. You've had this conversation a few times, and we're still here. Like that sort of like, can you tell me what's going on here? Like, so like not in an aggressive way, not in a we're breaking up with you way, or in a frustrated way, like in a concerned.
Yes.
I really want to know. So that was the learning for me there. The current was the tone and the pacing which he did it was like, that's true. That's true.
Like there's the difference between a good cold call and a terrible cold call is the nerves and the cadence and the pacing of the salesperson who does it, right? Because like the phone things, and you're trying to shove every word in there before they can hang up on you, before they can do a thing, and you're like, hey, my name is John, I'm from this company. Like you can't help.
You're needy.
If you can show up with a different kind of quality, confused, concerned, very thoughtful, or things like that, and that comes across in your tone, Jake, we've never spoken before. I've never tried to reach out to you. This is a cold call. Is it okay if I take 30 seconds and tell you why I thought the call would be worth your time, and then you can decide if it is or not?
Right.
Like it almost doesn't sound like a cold call just because I choose to not make it sound like a cold call.
Right.
Kind of deal. So exactly. Pacing is there. The other thing, right, is that if you're pacing is kind of like just like everything. There's a range, right? You can be too much or too little. So in your version of that you were doing just right here, and I know you're doing it for effect and everything, but like I'm almost getting the idea that you're being snarky, right, and being sarcastic, and there's that quality to some of these like really hard questions. Is like, is that a lot? Is that okay? Is that something that you're concerned about? If you don't ask those with the right kind of tonality and intention, you're probably not going to ask them at all, because I was not asking those kinds of questions for a long time because it just felt sarcastic, right? And so then I felt like an imposter. So I had to go back and kind of dial down my sarcasm in my like regular life and conversation, so that way I could do some of these tie down questions, and things like this.
Yeah, that's a hard one to turn off.
Yes.
You got to turn it off all the way across. The whole knob has to come on down.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're putting yourself into a spot where you're going to feel more salesy because you're using certain things only when you're in your sales conversation. So it's not a method and a way of communicating; it's a way that you sell, and that can cause some people some weird duality with like
Yeah.
their mindset and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, so I've got one question before we get out of here, if that's all right.
oh my,
Can I take the
only
last
one?
five?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
It's a Coach Jake moment. So James, I'd love to hear your thoughts. John.
Ooh.
Okay, so the feedback I've received so far from all three of my trainers,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree, and I know I do it, is not being frank enough with my questions, incisive enough with my questions, and adding extra language in, which weakens
Yes.
the request. And so, is it okay if? Can I ask you? Would it be okay if we talked about like different things of extra language in there when the conversation's already established? Of course, I can ask you a question. I don't need to say, "Can I ask you a question?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so this came up in an exercise yesterday that was similar. Current client, something's going on. You need to confront the sales manager about a situation going on. And he said, "Jake, tell me how you start. Give me the first two lines of that. How do you start the conversation with the sales manager?" I said, "Can we talk about da da da?" He goes, "No, you don't need that. You've already no. Just ask the question, Jake. What do you want to know? You know." And so that has been a repetitive thing that I think sounds a lot like what you said with the sarcasm dial. Like, I'm gonna have to just turn that down everywhere. I can just not say, "Can I?" Is it? And one of the other coaches said, why do you feel like you need to do that? He said, "I think you should go think about that. What are you afraid of if you don't add that contextual language and just go straight to the question? What's the worst that can happen?" So anyway, my actual question is, how do I get rid of that? Because that doesn't seem like an easy exercise to just remove language, right? It's much harder to remove language than it is to add it. So
yes, Mike. This is such an interesting topic. I'm curious to see what James says about this. I'm too permissive based, probably. Like, I think most people would say, John, and one of my friends who's a school psychologist and poker player got mad at me once because he was like, "God, man, like you can always just ask me the question."
Yes.
Right. But like, I ask people challenging questions. I ask people hard questions. Right. And if I'm going to hit you with like a hard, complex question, I feel like you need to be kind of set up for success. So, hey, is it okay if I ask you something that's kind of uncomfortable? Sure. Okay. Can we talk about money for a moment? Right now.
Okay, so let's take that one.
Okay.
Would it, because as I'm hearing you say it, coming from you, someone I already trust and would take that question from no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the first part. I hear it. I'm like, if you just said, "Hey, Jake, can we talk about money?" I go, "Sure." I wouldn't need the beginning. So I can hear it. So that's actually helpful, me hearing someone else do it.
I mean, so it depends, right? Like, I'm very permissive driven in like my sales process and my outreach process. And I don't think that drops away. Right. But it's kind of like, it's setting an expectation, right? Hey, can I change subjects for a moment? Sure. Now they know that I'm going to change subjects and we're going to potentially start talking about something else, right? If we're going in one direction, or, hey, can I go back to something you said a moment ago? Sure. As opposed to being like, now, Jake, earlier you said this thing, right? Like for certain prospects, depending upon their personality and everything, that's uncomfortable, right? So
true, but your tone changed also, which that's what hit me when you did it. Not
for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So, part of it is habit. Part of it is tied to your personality, right? Because like I'm a C personality type. I want, I'm very rigid. I'm very formulaic. I need a framework, all this other stuff. So,
yeah.
Well,
so the I think the point is, obviously Marcus is not about not being permissive. That's definitely
sure.
Not,
yeah.
Right. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think he's saying when you have to have hard conversations where you have already established rapport and have a relationship, it actually weakens your authority, not from like I'm better than you, but like hey, this is serious.
Yes. He's not wrong, right? Because it's kind of like another version of this is the person who isn't okay, but like you keep trying to make him okay. Like you go out to the bar, right, with someone and you're like, "Hey man, just let me get this one," and some people are like, "Man, are you sure?"
Yeah.
Or like, "You really sure?" Yeah. but like really super duper,
Yeah,
really,
you're like,
really, really
dude,
sure.
shut up and let me buy you the beer.
Yeah, I mean, hell,
Yeah.
man. At that point, you can buy the beers. Like there's something there, in that kind of situation. So, I do think that being too not okay, like hey, and all that stuff causes its own issues, right? So I'm
There's like
probably
a
too permissive.
push pull there. Like there's
Yeah,
a level, yeah.
but like
And
I'm
depending
not.
on where you're at, you
Yeah,
need to be somewhere in the slider.
exactly, right. It's
Yeah.
a range of the conversation. So like I don't think that I am as bad as like every question I ask, which is usually a fair amount, is like, hey, can I ask you a question? Can I
No,
ask you this question? But like
me either.
if it feels like it's heavy, or if it feels like we're getting close to like a tie down, like, hey, is that a lot? There are times where like I come out of it and I get very kind of, okay, is that a problem or is that a priority? I will ask those kinds of questions without a bunch of contextualization around it on the front end or the back end.
Yes.
But that's when we're deep into it, right? Like
And
my
that's
thing
what we're
is,
talking about. That's what we're talking about. Sure.
like one of the things that I talk about is you make your money as a consultative salesperson when you can ask the second question.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Like,
for sure.
do you want to chat with me? Oh yeah, sure. Okay, great. What kind of help do you think I could provide? That's where
It's
get
like
to
the
the
coaching
good.
habit, right? The first one is what's on your mind. The second one is
And what else?
what else?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So
Cool. I hate to run. This is a great conversation, but I
Yeah.
actually am 1 minute late for a call, so I
Yep.
gotta wrap. So, dude,
Thanks.
James, good to see you, man. Come
Yeah.
back. Mike,
for hanging out,
always
James.
great to see you.
Yeah.
Who
Mike,
else?
Michelle.
Michelle, yeah, Michelle.
Mhm.
Great to see you, Michelle.
Yeah.
And Bill, thanks for the help today.
You're welcome, man. Tomorrow we're going to talk about a conference I get to go to. It's going to be rad.
Yeah, and we have a guest.
And we have a guest. Yes,
So
it's going to be awesome.
check the page later today. The event will be up there. You can check things out. And then for now, see everybody later.
All right. Thanks, everybody.